There is scant historical precedent for the political turmoil that this country has endured over the past several years. America's two major political parties are living on two different planets. On Earth 1, people are focused on abortion rights, voting access, and protecting democracy. On Earth 2, the inhabitants care most about litigating an already litigated election and ginning up fears of whatever they can think of next to avoid meaningful policy discussions about things that matter to people. What Earth 1 gets right and Earth 2 doesn't is that democracy is the one that matters most right now, more even than inflation or the economy, topics that I tend to spend a lot of time discussing. In a recent NBC News poll, Americans were asked just that. What is the most important issue facing the country? 29% of Democrats say democracy, threats to democracy. Only 12% of Republicans agreed. Now, I'd like to think I know you all pretty well. Who else would choose to spend some of your Sunday morning with me? And I think you all live on Earth 1, where defending democracy and protecting freedoms are a high priority. But I also know that you must be sick and tired of hearing all of the nonsense that comes from the other side and their de facto leader, a twice-impeached insurrectionist. Every day it's something new, a new investigation, a new conspiracy theory, a new freedom taken away, a new extremist running for office, a new scheme to overthrow democracy. Believe me, I am quite sick of talking about it, too. The images, the voice, it grates on me. But I can't avoid it or ignore it. We have to keep talking about it, and you sadly have to keep listening. You know how the Washington Post says democracy dies in darkness? Well, in this case, the darkness is when we stop holding anti-democratic forces to account or when you stop paying attention. And paying attention means paying attention to the good stuff and the bad stuff. If I stood here every weekend and cherry-picked only the positive stuff going on in our politics, as some of you often suggest I do, it would be a much more watchable show than it is today. But the reality is that the threats to our democracy do not go away because you don't watch what they are doing. And I would be doing you and my profession a disservice to not give you the fullest picture that I can, even when a lot of that is unpleasant. Like the fact that the current president, with lots of achievements under his belt, isn't polling all that well just weeks before a critical midterm election. The former president and his enablers are a serious force to be reckoned with. And the only reason he has faced any sort of reckoning at all for the damage that he has done to this country and its democracy is because people kept a light on him. They dug deep and they spoke up. So this is just an acknowledgement. I know you don't like talking about him. Trust me, neither do I. I've gone this whole segment without speaking his name, but I don't have to say his name because you know exactly who I'm talking about. You know who's responsible for the dismantling of the basic dynamics of American democracy. You need to be armed with the truth about what people who don't share your worldview are up to. Better you know the truth and feel uncomfortable but motivated than that you hear a narrative that suits your preferences and makes you complacent. You don't need me telling you positive stories that make you feel good instead of the truth about how much peril this nation and its democratic experiment are actually in, because it is in peril. And ignoring that peril will hurt more than listening to the truth and understanding it.
Everyday people cannot lie to a bank about how much money they have in order to get a favorable loan to buy a home or to send their kid to college. And if they did, the government would throw the book at them. Why should this be any different? It is a tale of two justice systems, one for everyday working people and one for the elite, the rich and the powerful.
Medalia, to me, that sort of gets at the fundamental crux of all of the Trump accountability conversations, right? This idea of there being one standard of justice. And while I take David's point that, the banks, they knew who they were dealing with, I still think for folks who are watching all of this, as they watch it laid bare, there's a question of what message it sends if all of it is laid bare and then he still sort of walks away with no penalty.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, she caught the tension there in her speech where she said everyday Americans, can't do this. Donald Trump, has gotten away with this for so long. But I think the other point about Deutsche Bank is that not only did they know, but they also benefited from this. Deutsche Bank is in a weird position of both being the victim of this lying and also a beneficiary of the lying. And that is part of why there's a double standard, because if everybody is in on the grift, it's really, really hard to tag the grifters. And I think one of the reasons this is so maddening, and we're seeing it with the Mar-a-Lago investigation too, is that he does say one thing in public and has his lawyers say something else. And it's very, very much the case that he benefits from having this massive, massive public platform in which he can say anything with impunity, and it doesn't seem to inflect on the lawsuits.
So talking about grifters, David, top allies of Trump have created a new super PAC called MAGA Inc. It's expected to serve as the main vehicle for his midterm spending, could ultimately become his fundraising arm for a 2024 campaign should he decide to run. Reporting suggests Trump's other PAC, Save America, has spent close to $4 million on legal consulting in August alone. What do we know about how PAC funds are being used?
I don't think we know a whole lot, honestly. And I think there are, as you mentioned, there is this new PAC that's been set up. There's the Save America PAC. There are a bunch of other lingering PACs from the 2020 election that still are open and paying out huge amounts in legal fees to his lawyers at Jones Day. And I think clearly Trump is doing everything he can to raise as much money as he can from as many people as he can in as many PACs as he can to defray these pretty substantial legal bills that he is likely to face. I think he's going to face a lot of scrutiny if he throws his hat in the ring for the 2024 presidential election from some of his potential primary opponents and probably from the Republican Party writ large about the way that he's using campaign contributions to cover what may be personal legal expenses. But again, as we've been saying this whole show, Trump often says one thing in public, does another thing in private, and there tends to be a lot of impunity, which is maddening for normal people and for Democrats certainly, but it's a pattern and he keeps getting away with it. So I'm not sure anything's really going to change, I'm afraid.
The predictions were for a massive storm, historic storm. We certainly have seen that. Fiona definitely left a mark on the province. The damage is pretty heartbreaking. But what I would say is it's a testament to Nova Scotians and their preparedness. That what we've seen we haven't had any reports of loss of life. I'm really thankful for that. We haven't really had too many reports of serious injuries. I'm really thankful for that. And I think that's a testament to the preparedness of Nova Scotians. But the damage is extensive. This is going to take, the cleanup effort will take time. It's going to take patience. Getting power back is the #1 priority right now. We've had serious issues with the communications network. So just getting roads cleared, giving space to the crews to do what needs to be done, that's the most important thing right now. It will take time.
Meanwhile, there's some new concerns on the U.S. Gulf Coast because right now Tropical Storm Ian is strengthening in the Caribbean and is forecast to batter Florida as a major hurricane next week. NBC's Maggie Vespa is following Fiona for us in Halifax, and we welcome you, Maggie, but we're going to begin with you, meteorologist Bill Karen. So tell us about the concern now growing over this Tropical Storm Ian. What's the latest on that, Bill?
Alex, there has been a lot of changes overnight and even this morning. The biggest thing is that we were mostly focused the last couple of days on the Florida Peninsula. So that's pretty much talking about the area that goes north to south and not so much the Panhandle. And now that appears to be switching. We're trending west with the storm. So let me give you the latest from the Hurricane Center. It's still a tropical storm, but it's only going to grow from here. It probably has about 3-4 days to get stronger and stronger and stronger over very warm water. It may weaken a little bit before it makes landfall sometime around Wednesday time frame, maybe Thursday if it's up there in the Panhandle. So again, right now it's just about south of Jamaica Jamaica, not really affecting any land areas. So let me take you out through the next 2 days. The Hurricane Center tomorrow does strengthen it pretty rapidly. By the time we get to Monday morning, up to a Category 2 hurricane, approaching western Cuba or maybe even near Cancun or Cozumel sometime Tuesday morning as a Category 3. So that brings it up to a major hurricane status. You notice that cone of uncertainty. Don't focus so much on that center line. What has changed dramatically in the last 12, 24 hours is Miami is no longer in that cone of uncertainty. Much of the Florida Keys, who yesterday were expecting to get hit with the brunt of the storm, is almost out of the cone. In the same breath, the cone is now shifted. It includes Tallahassee, it includes Panama City, and I wouldn't doubt if later today that cone shifts over and includes areas like Pensacola, because the trend has been to the west. So let me show you some examples of this. And we do think it will be approaching land at least Category 2 to Category 4. So somewhere in a very serious category. It's too early to tell for intensification. We're still 4 days away. The current path is shown with the black line there from the Hurricane Center, and that would, of course, bring tropical storm force winds all to the western half of Florida. But I still think this is going to shift more to the west, and that would take some of those stronger winds away from Miami, West Palm Beach, Fort Pierce, Jupiter, Melbourne area, all the way up through the Space Coast. So again, still a lot to be decided. This was last night's runs of our computers. The Euro had it right over Central Florida. The American GFS model was off the coast. Since then, the new American model's just on its way in right now, and it is much further to the west, more heading up towards Pensacola or Panama City. We'll wait and see. The new Euro model doesn't come in for another about 2 hours, and we'll see if that also shifts west. A lot of our computer lines have shifted west, too. Notice all those lines now trending towards what we call the Big Bend area of Florida, near Apalachicola to Tallahassee, where some of those other ones are from Tampa. So it's good news for some, Alex. The people in Miami are saying, okay, this is better for us in South Florida. But everyone on the west coast of Florida and now up through the Panhandle is like, oh, boy. Here we go again. The Panhandle's been nailed so many times in the last couple of years.
And you make a good point about the Space Coast, if you will. NASA has canceled in a preemptive measure that Tuesday scheduled launch of the rocket just in case, keeping an eye on that. Thank you, Bill.